Good evening, folks, and welcome back to day number 46 of the Bible in 365. Today we are taking a look at Numbers chapter 13, beginning in verse 17, and exploring all the way to Numbers chapter 15, ending in verse 21. You all know the drill. Let's get started. So our story picks back up in Numbers chapter 13, and Moses sends the spies into the land of Canaan. The spies are 12 men, one from each ancestral tribe. They are leaders, and they are sent on a reconnaissance mission. Moses tells them, starting in verse 17 through 25, to go and to bring back all this different types of information about the topography, information about the crops, what they grow, information about the people, the cities, whether or not they're fortified, whether or not the people are strong or big, how many of them there are. And so they're supposed to gather all this information and bring it back to Moses. So in verse 25, we see that they have come back after 40 days, and they give a report to Moses, and they say, hey, the land is good. It's flowing of milk and honey like the Lord promised. It's definitely the promised land. And Caleb gets up and he says, yeah, let's go and conquer. Let's go overcome and take this. And everyone else is like, but the people are so big. Like, the Lord promised us this, but I really don't think that we can take over, this land. And so they're, showing their real world concerns and their doubts. And so with this doubt, in Numbers chapter 14, it tells us that, this doubt gets spread throughout all the Israelites, and now the people are complaining and they're freaking out and they're saying, God sent us to this land, but we're just gonna die. The women and children are gonna be raped and killed, and we're gonna die ourselves, because they're giants and we can't do anything. God can't do anything. And so the people are freaking out, and Moses and Aaron fall on their face before the congregation of Israel. And at this point, Joshua, the son of Nun, who is also one of the spies, goes with them and addresses the congregation of Israel and says, if the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into the land and give it to us, this land that flows of milk and honey. Don't rebel against the Lord. Don't fear the people of the land. The Lord is with us. And so at this, the Lord comes down, he talks to Moses, and he says, how long is my people going to despise me? Haven't they seen everything that I have done for them? And they still don't believe. They're still scared that I'm not going to provide for them. You know what? I'm just done with them. I'll just take you, Moses, and I will kill everyone else off, and I will make a nation out of you and your descendants, you and your family. And Moses then bows down and begs the Lord and says, but God, Lord, don't you realize the Egyptians have heard of you? They've seen your miracles. They've seen your plagues. They've seen your signs and wonders. And, if you kill everyone off, they're just going to mock you. They're going to say that you couldn't bring your people to the land that you promised them. You couldn't do it. And then the people of the land there are going to hear about that. And then me and my family are going to be a mockery as well. And you're going to be a mockery. And so at this point in time, the Lord says, okay, I will pardon, but there still is going to be judgment. And so essentially here, the Lord says that none of the people who have seen the signs and wonders and has doubted is going to enter into the promised land. So essentially, what it details for us is that anyone who's written in the census, age 20 and over, who has doubted the Lord, they're going to die of plague in the wilderness, and they're not going to see the promised land because of their doubt. And so it tells us that each day of the reconnaissance missions, there was 40 days, is going to be punished with a year. So there's going to be 40 years in the wilderness. And it tells us in verses 36 through 38, and 38 specifically, it says, of the men who went out to spy the land, only Joshua, the son of Nun, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, remained alive. Everyone else who brought a bad report died by the plague before the Lord. And so moving into the end of chapter 14 of Numbers, it tells us that, Moses tells the people of this, and hey, the Lord is no longer with you because you didn't believe in him. You doubted him. You abandoned him. You said, no, you acted as if he wasn't even there. And so now he has removed himself from you. And the people are like, whatever, we're right here. We're just going to walk into the land. And Moses is like, you're going to die because God's not with you. And they're like, whatever, man. And so, they go try to enter the promised land, and the Amalekites and the Canaanites who lived in the hill country came down and just slaughtered them and then pushed them back, and out of the region, it's because the Lord wasn't with them. And they thought they could do it on their own strength. Now, moving forward to Numbers chapter 15. Numbers chapter 15, verses 1 through 21, gives us some instructions, laws about sacrifices for when the people do eventually enter into the promised land. So it's laws regarding grain offerings and free will offerings and burnt offerings, drink offerings, wave offerings. All of these types of things are included here. All right, folks, it is here where we end our reading for tonight. Tomorrow we are going to pick up in Numbers chapter 15, beginning in verse 22, and we're going to explore all the way to Numbers chapter 16, ending in verse 50. As always, folks, God bless.